Great Demon King. Chapter 16. A lot of people are hitting me. Noon had come to the Necromancy Major's training fields. Han Shuo, lost in thought over Master Genie's morning lecture, was half-heartedly sweeping the grounds. He furrowed his brows, pondering each point from memory. Suddenly, a portly figure rushed in through the doorway, skidding to a halt before him. It was Jack, panting heavily, his face flushed with alarm. In a trembling voice, Jack managed to convey dire news. Carey and Borg were on their way, seeking revenge. Han Shuo felt a flash of annoyance at having his concentration broken, and wondered why those two fools were after him again. He had already beaten them once. Jack seemed unsure of the exact reason, only having overheard something about Borg and Carey feeling ill that morning after consuming some dubious concoction. Their faces had turned an alarming shade of green, and they had laid the blame on Han Shuo, shouting that they would make him pay. Even Lisa, it seemed, was helping them look for him. Han Shuo absent-mindedly touched his still healing back, comforted only by the knowledge that the magical yuan he cultivated was steadily containing the dark green fighting aura lingering in his spine. He felt little patience for the situation and silently steeled himself. If these people were determined to come for him, he decided he would not pull any punches in defending himself. Jack, visibly worried, tried to convince Han Shuo to flee. He pointed out that Carey and Borg had recruited some extra help, figures who looked larger and meaner than the usual necromancy errand students. But Han Shuo merely brushed aside the suggestion, wrapping his fingers around the broom handle as he gazed at the door. Before Jack could say anything else, Carey's voice boomed from outside. He and Borg stormed in, blocking the training field entrance. Both of them appeared distinctly green in the face, and Borg, clutching his stomach, gave a sudden retch that sent a foul, blackish liquid splashing onto the floor. An awful stench filled the air, and Carey's stomach also seemed to churn in protest, though he only managed a few choked coughs. They both looked miserable, yet their anger burned fiercely. They accused Han Shuo of giving Lisa ingredients that, once refined, had been fed to them, leading to their current misery. Borg, pale and trembling, pressed himself against the doorway for support. Carey, simultaneously furious and queasy, screeched that either Han Shuo would perish or he would. Han Shuo realized Lisa must have actually believed the bizarre recipes he had jokingly invented to explain his sudden agility. Clearly, she had tested the concoctions on Borg and Carey, resulting in their revolting symptoms. Feigning innocence, Han Shuo shook his head, playing the part of a clueless errand boy. Yet Carey grew even more enraged by his denial and signaled his companions to attack him. This ragtag group, including Borg, advanced with rolled-up sleeves, ready to pummel Han Shuo. Indeed, they were tall or muscular in varying degrees, but not consistently both. Han Shuo sized them up and felt a fierce desire surge within him, a longing to vent his frustrations through violence. It felt almost like a spell weaving into his very thoughts, just as it had when he sparred with Lisa. The magical yuan continued to swell within his spine, devouring the residual dark green aura from Eric. Han Shuo realized he was slipping into that same dangerous mindset, where rational caution gave way to a primal urge to strike. He turned to see Jack trembling in fear. Taking advantage of the moment, he thrust the broom handle into Jack's hands. In a cold, measured tone, he told Jack to use its sharp end on anyone who tried attacking him. Jack, stunned by Han Shuo's sudden transformation from meek to grimly resolute, could only stare in silent dismay. Then, as if switching back to his usual persona, Han Shuo hunkered down and wailed convincingly, covering his head as though in terror. Carey and his companions rushed in, fists flying and feet lashing out at Han Shuo's body. At first, Han Shuo stumbled back, as if panicked, but upon reaching Jack's side, he roared with an almost animalistic ferocity, then lunged like a charging bull. Carey, leading the assault, remembered how dangerous Han Shuo could be when cornered. Suddenly, he hesitated mid-kick, just as Han Shuo grabbed his raised foot and flipped him over. Carey landed face first on the ground, teeth clacking against stone and blood pooling at the corner of his mouth. The onlookers froze, alarmed by Han Shuo's abrupt and brutal strength. Borg, however, tried to rally them by wielding a wooden stool, declaring that 6 against 1 would surely overwhelm Han Shuo. The others drew short wooden staves, and all charged forward. Han Shuo dodged Borg's first swing, letting the stool crash into the floor. Then he delivered a swift punch to Borg's nose, unleashing a gush of blood that left Borg reeling and dropping his weapon. Seizing the abandoned stool, Han Shuo was immediately targeted by a red-haired stocky youth brandishing a stave at his head. With sudden reflexes, Han Shuo lifted the stool in defense, feeling the magical yuan churn faster, as though feeding on the battle's energy. In that moment, a vicious clarity flooded Han Shuo's mind. He tore the stool in half with uncanny strength, then kicked the red-haired student in the abdomen, doubling him over. The next second, he brought the jagged stool pieces down onto the unfortunate youth's head, drawing even more blood. Borg, spotting his friend's plight, shrieked at the others to help or risk losing a comrade to Han Shuo's frenzy. The entire group crowded forward, but none managed to land a solid blow. Every swing ended with them reeling back in pain. Jack could only watch, dumbstruck at the sight of timid Brian becoming a whirlwind of savage strikes. Every thud and crunch filled Jack's heart with dread. Meanwhile, deep within Han Shuo's body, Eric's fighting aura finished dissolving into the magical Yuan. He felt a sudden spark of alarm at his own ruthless actions. This had gone far enough, and he didn't want to kill anyone. At that very moment, Fanny's voice echoed from outside, ordering someone to check the commotion in the training fields. Han Shuo saw Carey and the others halted in fear, their wooden staves lowered, unwilling to confront him any further. Recognizing the trouble he was in, Han Shuo made a snap decision. He dashed toward the training field doors, smearing blood from the broken stool across his face and hair. Tugging on the half-healed wound on his back, he let fresh blood soak into his clothes. With a sudden dramatic crash, he collapsed just as Fanny and a few onlookers rushed in, dragging himself across the floor and stretching out blood-stained hands. A moment later, he managed a shaky plea, face contorted with terror, as he addressed the new arrivals. All they could see was his pitiful figure, drenched in crimson and trembling for help. And so, even with his heart still pounding from the wild violence moments before, Han Shuo delivered the perfect image of a hapless victim, sending the entire scene into utter confusion.